Man, you know what I am like totally fucking sick of is having the need to censor yourself to the public just so you don't piss anybody off. And this really stems from something that came up on one of our calls. Like we actually had a woman who was guesting on our calls telling the men in our men's group how they should act and what they should do. And to be honest, it just wasn't the truth. It was not the truth. In fact, it had to do with how you text a girl and how you can never send a dick pic. Before we get off on that topic, let me just tell you why these things don't mix. And it always goes into this thing like, what do you have against women? What do you have against me? Or whatever the divide is. What do you have against white people? What do you have against black people? What do you have against blah, 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 blah. Segregation in our entire society is fucked up. I get it. But the reason why we have men's groups is so men can be men and tell the story of men and tell the story of what actually happens. But the interesting thing is as soon as you start to integrate somebody different or somebody who doesn't understand that experience, everything gets censored because of it. And again, I get this argument, oh, well, what do you mean? What do you have against this? Why can't it happen? I think you can get a lot from it. You can learn. No shit. I get it. We should get a ton from women. They can teach us so many different things, but there's a time and a place for that. What happens if you're a part of a sorority, but because we all have to be equal and interact, that a man has to live in that house and you have to start listening to what he says, it pollutes the whole dynamic of what is going on. Same thing goes for a fraternity. There are times and places where different groups divide and meet. That doesn't mean that everybody needs to divide. That doesn't mean that everybody needs to stay separate. Now, here's where it gets fucked up. Where it gets fucked up is when society says that we need to integrate, that we have to do it in order to be fair. And this is where you get these blurred lines of social groups where people in feminist groups start to look at people in men's rights groups and they can't connect and they can't conflict because, or they totally conflict because, man, they're a world apart from each other. Man, let those people talk. You know, women have their groups where they talk about stuff and that's all cool. And I don't fucking understand it. I don't get it. It seems stupid to me or it doesn't make sense or I don't know why they like Ryan Gosling or whoever the next new hunk or whatever is. I don't get why they say these things or why men frustrate them or their husbands or their boyfriends or whatever the fuck it is. It doesn't make sense to me. I think it's stupid. I think it's dumb. Now, if I tell them that, they clearly don't think that. But there's a time and a place where guys need to talk and they need to talk and they need to interact and it does need to be private. And that doesn't mean that it goes into their whole lives. And that doesn't mean that they think that women are less than because of that. But goddamn, man, you know why my relationship works? Is because I can disappear with some of my guy friends. I can smoke cigars. I can play pool. I can talk shit. I can say, fuck, man, it sucks being in this relationship. And Jesus Christ, man, women suck. And God damn it, man, you know, bitches just blah, blah, blah. And you talk your shit. You talk your shit. And then you go home and you have a great relationship with somebody because you decompressed, right? And the more that we don't allow that to happen, the more that these extremist men's groups or women's groups or whatever the hell, racial, yada, yada, yada groups get. And then we start getting men who have been robbed from that experience to be able to decompress from one another. And then they start going like, I fucking hate women and women only control, you know, need to be controlled and they need to be dominated and so on, da, 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 and repression, enforcement. Why? Because that's the only way that order is made in our society and culture. Man, you cannot take being a man away from being a man. You cannot take being a woman away from being a woman. This is just not the right way to do it. There's two different things. There's a man, there's a woman, and how we become one and how we understand being a man or a woman is interacting, connecting, and transforming. And that is exactly what sex is. Back to the dick pic thing. Let me tell you something, man. Every guy I know that's good with women pretty much does it. And it works. And with every type of girl that they date. Now, here's the thing. You meet some random chick and you just send her your dick pic, it's most likely going to piss her off and offend her and highly offend her. But if you have some connection with her and she knows that that dick is hard for you and or hard for her, Jesus, man, that's a compliment. All right? Men got to talk. Men got to be able to share their shit. And that's how we get to the truth of things, right? We don't get to the truth by censoring ourselves so that we can sound good for people that aren't going to understand us. Anyway, do your thing, split off, come back, everybody interact together. Remember, the goal of it is to interact, engage, have sex, merge. not to be more of a man that's separate from women and more of a woman that's separate from man. You don't get anywhere doing that.